Hey everybody, welcome back to Get Indie Gaming. I'm Stuart J, your regular host here on the channel, and today I'm counting down some of the best looking indie games coming out this week, all across the usual storefronts. As we close out the month, it's yet another wallet-stretching week for new games, and without further delay, let's crack on with the countdown. Let's begin at this week's number 10 with Polybridge 2, the successor of the much loved and highly acclaimed bridge building game from nearly 5 years ago. As before, players are asked to solve physics-based puzzles by way of building modular bridges, although this time the game ships with a custom overall physics engine, custom new mechanics, as well as a never-ending variety of levels. All this is done within a sandbox or workshop modes, together with an in-depth level editor. Polybridge 2 should provide some casual and soothing gameplay when it's out this coming May 28th via Steam. Up next, and also out digitally on May the 28th with a physical release coming later in the summer, Those Who Remain is a psychological action-adventure horror game where you play as a guy called Edward, having newly arrived in a town called Dormant. While there's hardly a shortage of these sort of experience, it's made this week's rundown for what the developers are calling its use of gameplay themes and mechanics that aren't usually found within these sort of games. The objective in Those Who Remain isn't simply to scare the player per se. There are supposedly no jump scares used within the overall design, rather than the team wanted to create an environment where players experience a strong and continual sense of foreboding. An atmosphere that's sinister and oppressive, which in the longer run, if done with care and skill, can lift the perception of dread with a constant drip feed of malice, rather than a short, sharp shock associated with something or somebody screaming up at your face at close random occurrences. I'm also drawn to another aspect of the game's narrative, in as much as it seeks to deliver on a theme of action and consequences with the things we do and how our decisions not only impact ourselves, but also those around you. There could be something here that might turn out to be really rather good. Now, there's certainly hints here of Twin Peaks going on, so for me at least, that's something else to help draw me in. Those Who Remain is coming to PC by way of Steam, the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. Let's move on with this week's number 8, where we have Wildfire, which is coming out on May 26th by way of the crew at Humble Bundle Publishers. So Wildfire looks really fascinating, with it being set in what the developers have called a world where magic has all but gone away. Although your player character has recently been named and shamed and branded as being a witch, which in truth isn't really a lie. That being said, you find yourself amongst people who are wary of your supernatural powers, and as could be expected in such a game, you'll end up using your skills to burn, freeze and alter the environments as you go about protecting and free your fellow villagers, and in general, keep them safe from folks who'd rather do them harm. I'm thinking this all looks rather lovely in what's really a mix-up of platforming, battling and apparent stealth sections. The musical score also seems based on an Irish kind of theme, which reminds me of Riverdance and a good pint of Guinness. There's also local couch co-op, which is another thing to consider. And if you like your action stealth games with a dose of pixel art, you can pick up Wildfire on the Steam and Humble Bundle stores. At number 7, Fly Punch Boom comes out this week onto Steam and the Nintendo Switch. For me and the other folks here at Get Indie Gaming, this flying battle game with its hugely vibrant and destructive levels will be all about the 4-player local multiplayer option. All in with its 40 or so stages where everything just looks so silly and over the top, with it reminding us of Dragon Ball Z. If this is new to you or you want to see more, there's a demo you can get hold of via the game's Steam homepage, and you can find that link together with all of the other games featured in this video down in the description. Fly Punch Boom comes out this May 28th.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the first ever Half Genie Festival!
At number 6, and look who's back with another new adventure. Yes, that's right, once again we have Shantae in what's her 5th outing as the half lady, half genie, and this time she's been given what's called fusion magic abilities that enable her to explore a huge and vastly sunken city alongside a few new half genie friends in what the publisher and developer Way Forward have said is the largest and most thrilling quest of the series so far. Said to feature all new characters, With a dose of returning favourites such as Sky, Bolo and Rottitops, this new adventure will offer up an expansive and interconnected world that traverses above and below the sea, where you're able to use her new fusion magic to change between different and new creatures. As could be expected, there are plenty fully animated cutscenes and many mini-games, magic items to find and secrets to uncover. While Shantae and the 7 Sirens is already out on Apple Arcade, it's out like many games this week on May 28th and comes to the PC and all of the usual consoles, with a planned limited physical release coming by way of limited run games, with the details yet to be advised. Up now and at the halfway point in this week's rundown, Little Misfortune, while out last year on PC, gets a port by way of the Nintendo eShop, PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One on May the 29th. If this is new to you, what you can expect from Little Misfortune is an interactive horror fairy story of sorts that's driven by exploration with a focus on choice-driven consequences. It features a girl looking to find the prize of what's called eternal happiness, something she's looking to offer as a gift to her mother, and together with her new friend, something called Mr. Voice, she ventures off into the woods where mystery and the odd bit of bad luck unfolds. The game shares the same world as the cult video game Fran Bow and comes from Kill Monday Games. Now, the PC version from last year wasn't without its problems. In places the game was overly complex, and at times the character and things said by Mr. Voice are somewhat skin-crawling in nature. Although there is enough going on here and payoff come the end of the 3-hour or so runtime that makes this worth looking into if you haven't done so already. At number 4 and new to Steam on the 27th, Reki is a wonderful looking paired back puzzler with a minimalistic art style that's based upon what you might find in classical technical drawings. Having already played this by way of iOS, it really is one heck of an elegant brain teaser with over 96 levels and a difficulty curve that starts off easily enough, although things can get really challenging. Like all great puzzle games, it's one I found myself easy to get into and unwind by playing, with it making you feel ever so clever and smart when you figure out the relevant solutions. I very much suspect this might be one of the puzzling hidden gems out in the whole of 2020. At number 3, and would you just look at this, yes that's right, we have Missile Command, and while it's published by Atari, the Nicovision Studios are certainly indie enough, and boy am I looking forward to playing this once it comes out on May the 28th. As you can see, it's a reimagining of the fast-paced arcade action game from 40 years ago. Now this just looks so darn cool, and while I understand it's out already for free on Android and iOS with in-app purchases, if you've not played this one before, you can pick this up on Steam as well as the Nintendo Switch. Next up, and this week's runner-up, Atomic Crops comes out of early access on May 28th. As this video comes out, I've already had a good number of hours with the game on the Switch. If this is new to you, well, Atomic Crops is what's honestly best described as an action shooter roguelike farming simulator, that played off the tongue, where you must grow, farm, cultivate and defend these crops in what's the last farm providing food for your local town within a post-end-of-day settings. It's kind of like, let's say, Stardew Valley, but with mutants and the odd gun thrown in there for good measure. It is also brutal. We've known that since the demos and trade shows from last year, although there's something here every shooter and harvesting fan should really rather enjoy. Atomic Crops is coming to PCs by way of the Epic Store and also to the Switch, PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. At number 1, Resolution, for many there's no doubt, will remind them of Hyper Light Drifter, which to be honest is what really drew me to it in the first place. The grim but strangely attractive cyberpunk visuals really do offer up something that's so very striking that made me want to know more. Said to feature a fast-paced action-adventure game that's supposedly inspired by classic Zelda and other such action-adventure games, aside from how it looks and, as I understand it, how well written the game's narrative is, the other reason for it to top this week's rundown comes from the way the developers have integrated the game within Twitch. Streamers will be able to insert a resolution bot not only in their channel's chat, but also seemingly into the game itself, with it being able to call out people in the chat, enabling them to write something that can appear on screen as the player plays, but also in the way it can influence the overall gameplay. The bot can, for example, ask the chat if they think the difficulty should be, let's say, upped a little, which in turn may result in NPCs and bosses becoming harder, or perhaps even easier, depending on the choice of the people in the chat room. The developers have also hinted at other options where they themselves will be able to drop into streams and mess around with the game's back end and cause a little bit of chaos. Resolution comes out May 28th on Steam for PC and the Nintendo Switch. And so that's it. Do let me know which of these you most want to see more of, and while you're here, please like the video, and if you haven't done already, now's a great time to subscribe to the channel. Either way, many thanks for watching, and I'll see you all again here soon for another indie game video.